Hi dear students, good morning. Today we are going to discuss and learn a new poem in class 10th English, that is Animals, written by Walt Whitman. In fact, this poem, Animals, is taken from Walt Whitman's collection of poems from Songs of Myself in Leaves of Grass. Whitman was an American poet who wrote a revolutionary kind of poetry in free verse. This poem tells us that the poet feels more at home with animals than humans, whom he finds complicated and false. Dear students, before going to discuss and learn the poem, let me ask you a question that how many of you like animals? How many of you have the habit of interacting with animals? Do you have pet animals in your home? Do you have the habit of playing with animals? Most of you will say that yes, because animals are always a special kind compared to human beings. Personally speaking, myself so happy with animals, and since childhood days I have been seeing different kinds of animals nurtured in my home. I remember the cow is always found in my home, a single cow which gives lots of milk, curd, buttermilk, etc. Every time my mother looks after that, and even I have seen that my mother maintain always one or two goats. That also very interesting. Its bleat and its playing all are very interesting. I have also seen even rabbits in my house in my childhood days. Many rabbits were there in my house, and even two times we had dogs also. And even now I can see cats, 2 to 3 cats in my house. Though this all are my mother's friends. My mother, I have seen she even interact with them, talk to them, scold them sometimes, and gives them food on time. And they always show the loyalty, happiness whenever we go near that. And even these animals, when we depart, they feel, they cry. When we come close, they are very much accelerated. And one or other way we can see animals possess loads of qualities which we even could not find human beings. And I have the habit of observing the animals, how they make sounds, how different kinds of sounds in different occasions, and how they behave in different time with different matters. So definitely living with animals or interacting with them is a great time pass, and it gives a lot of mental ease and happiness to us. And this poem, Animals, here the poet is trying to compare the life of human or the characteristics of human with the characteristics of animals. Now let us learn the poem. I think I could turn and live with animals. They are so placid and self-contained. I stand and look at them long and long. New words. Placid means calm and peaceful. Self-contained means self-satisfied. Let's see what does the poet say through these initial lines. I think I could turn and live with animals. They are so placid and self-contained. The poet very openly tells us that from being a human being, he would like to turn an animal. He would like to turn as an animal and live with them. Why? Why does he like to change his human life to animal life? Because they are so calm and quiet, self-contained, self-satisfied. The poet is trying to tell us that he is fed up with being being a human being and living with human beings because human beings are not peaceful. Human beings are not self-satisfied. They are always greed and unhappy. They are always behind the material things. And again the poet says that I stand and look at them long and long. See how wonderful the poet expresses his feelings. Whom do us look long and long? Someone who fascinates us. Here the poet says that he look at the animals, he observe the animals because they are very fascinating. They are very attractive. Now let's move to the next part of the poem. Let me read it first. They do not sweat and whine about their condition. They do not lie awake in the dark and weep for their sins. They do not make me sick discussing the duty to God. Not one is dissatisfied, not one is demented with the mania of owning things. Let us see the new words. Sweat and whine means cry and complain. Sins means offenses, mistakes. Demented means insane or behaving irrationally due to anger. Mania, is a mental illness, or you can say it's a craze. Kneels means bend. They do not sweat and whine about their condition. Dear students, you can see the poet here try to compare the human with the characteristics of animals. Here the poet says that the human, unlike human, the animals do not complain and cry about their condition. If you observe, you can see that we human always make complaints. We never get satisfied with the existing condition. We find mistakes in every situation and complain, cry and complain. They do not lie awake in the dark and weep for their sins. Poet again says that unlike human beings, these animals do not get up in the dark, in the night and cry for their sins or their offenses. This is also one of the bad characteristics of human beings. They do not get sleep, they cry in the night because they have done a lot of offenses, sins. But animals, they do not do that and they sleep well. They do not make me sick discussing their duty to God. Here the poet says that unlike human beings, the animals usually do not make others disturb, sick, discussing their duty to God. You can see human beings always say, oh my God, lots of complaints to human God, lots of requests to the God. And he says, I have that duty, I have this responsibility, I have that problem, this problem. Oh God, please save me, please save me. You can see human beings depends a lot on God. Not one is dissatisfied, not one is demented with the mania of owning things. Again, the poet here says that not a single animal is dissatisfied. Means every human is dissatisfied, not at all satisfied. Whatever he or she gets, it do not make them satisfied. But animals are not like that. Not one is demented with the mania of owning things, the materialistic things, the materialistic world we are living, and every human is in a craze, is in a mania of owning things, of purchasing things. This is what we have discussed already in the last poem also. Human beings are materialistic. They are happy with only with material things and they are always in the craze of owning things. But the animals are not like this. Dear children, you can understand how beautifully the poet compared the animals with the human beings. Now let's move to the next part of the poem. No one kneels to another, nor to his kind that lived thousands of years ago. Not one is respectable or unhappy over the whole earth. So they show the relations to me and I accept them. They bring me tokens of myself. They evince them plainly in their possession. Let's see the new words. Kneels here means bend in front of others. Tokens means inner qualities. Evince means show. Possession means, as you know, ownership. Now let's see what actually the poet is trying to tell us through this second part. Not one kneels to another, nor to his kind that lived thousands of years ago. Here again the poet is trying to compare the animals with human. He says, the animals do not kneel down in front of others. We human have the habit of kneeling down in front of others for many reasons. Depends upon the situation, human do such things. Nor to his kind that lived thousands of years ago. Animals are equal, not like the human beings. In our society we can see there are different kinds of inequalities. Some are respectable, the people kneel down in front of them. Some are not like that, so the people behave differently to them. But here the poet says that all the animals are equal, not like human beings. Nor to his kind that lived thousands of years ago. Here the poet is trying to mention the ancestors. We human beings, you can see, we are even in connection with the ancestors. Even the death of a person, we do not leave them. We even do lots of pujas and lots of things to the people who already died, and we believe such superstitious things or blind beliefs. But here the poet says that animals do not believe the people who are already died, and they don't maintain any relations. So here the poet is trying to tell us the animals know not one kneels to another, not to his kind that lived thousands of years ago. The existing animals or the died animals, whoever it is, everything is equal to them. Not one is respectable or unhappy over the whole earth. Here if you compare the human beings, we can see some human beings are more respectable, some are ordinary, someone is considered even inferior, but animals are not like that. Not one is respectable. That means all the animals are considered or treated with equal respect. They are not unhappy over the whole earth. Just before I was telling you the same thing, human beings are never happy or never satisfied with the existing situations or conditions, but animals are not at all unhappy. They are happy with what they have. So they show the relations to me and I accept them. Showing the relations. See that. We human beings, we have lots of hiding nature. We show or we pretend to be good in front of others, but many of the people are not the same. They pretend to be kind, but they are unkind or cruel inside. They pretend to be generous, but inside they are very greedy. So the poet is trying to tell us, they show the relations to me. The animals are very open-minded. They don't have the hiding nature. They are very open and I accept them. The poet says that I accept such animals and such nature. They bring me tokens of myself. The animals are bringing to me the inner qualities of myself. The poet is trying to tell us the animals remind me. The animals remind me about the inner qualities or the inner virtues of myself. They evince, they show them plainly. The animals show these kind of good virtues, good qualities, abundance, plainly, very naturally in their possession, which are with them. Dear students, here you can see the poet trying to tell us that the animals have a good quantity of possession of the virtues and values that the poet value in life. But the poet is unfortunately unable to find such virtues and values with the existing fellow beings. Now let's move to the concluding part of the poem. I wonder where they get those tokens. Did I pass that way huge times ago and negligently drop them? Word meaning tokens, I told you, the good qualities or inner qualities. Negligently means carelessly. Here the poet concludes the poem asking a question. He himself introspect, asks question to himself, and reminds every one of us to ask this question to ourselves. I wonder where they get those tokens. The poet says that he is surprised, he is wondered from where these animals acquired these inner qualities. See, animals are not going to school, they are not living in a society like ours, but unlike human beings, these animals possess a lot of inner qualities. Did I pass that way huge times ago and negligently drop them? The poet is surprisingly asked a question that we human beings, have we negligently dropped or lost those good inner qualities, and have these qualities passed over to animals? He is just trying to ask the question that these good qualities, generosity, kindness, compassion, all these good qualities of human beings have been found now with animals, and he surprisingly asked that whether we have negligently or carelessly dropped somewhere and these qualities are moved to the animals. Dear students, human beings are called the most civilized species in the entire world. You know it. But sometimes we human beings lack the common values which are better exhibited by the animals. The human beings lack the qualities of being respectable, happy, contented, and peace-loving, which is still reflected in animals. The poet reminds us that animals do not grumble about their lives, nor lie awake at night, nor cry over their sins, or nor discuss their duties towards God as humans do. He says that animals do not have a mania for owning things, nor do they kneel before others like humans. Moreover, the poet reminds us that the tokens of goodness, love, respect, and happiness have been dropped by human beings and it is acquired by animals. Dear students, now let's analyze the important poetic devices used in the poem by Walt Whitman. In the first line you can see the poetic device assonance is used. Use of the vowel sound I is repeated. I think, I live, animals. So the vowel sound I is repeated. So it is assonance. Secondly, you can find the literary device repetition. In the third line, the word long is repeated, long and long. So it is repetition. Thirdly, you can also find anaphora. The word repeated in the start of two consecutive lines, first and second. I think, I stand. So it is anaphora. Now let's see the important literary devices used in the second part of the poem. At first you can find anaphora, that is the use of repeated words at the beginning of two or more consecutive lines. They do not is repeated in the beginning of three lines. So it is anaphora. You can also find secondly metaphor, that is a direct comparison. Sweat and wine refer to the cries and complaints of human beings. So they do not sweat and wine. So it is a metaphor. In the last part Also, you can find a poetic device, especially a metaphor. They bring me tokens of myself. So here, the inner qualities of humans are referred to as tokens. So it is metaphor.